I'm the luckiest man you will ever meet, despite the harshness of my life. I'm so lucky. I was born and raised in Egypt, public school, public university in Egypt, which basically means I'm almost uneducated. And I went so far in life, it really, really was unbelievable. It's just so strange that I could live a life that took me this far. I lived literally two full lives so far. One of them was the life that you saw with the big logos of Google and what have you. I graduated from university as an engineer. I'm a very serious math geek. I promise you, I speak mathematics and numbers better than I speak English by a very large distance. And I had to learn to sort of translate my view of life, which is highly algorithmic, into words so that people can benefit from it. In Egypt, where I was born and raised, this is really frowned upon. If you don't talk about football and, all of the stuff that my other fellow friends were talking about, you're not in a good place to grow up being a geek at all, okay? And so I struggled with that in my early life. But then somehow, as I finished my university, I was at a stage in life where I decided, you know what, I'm just going to live whatever I like. And I was a very serious carpenter, so I started a workshop. Never really cared about money, to be honest, which is probably one of the reasons why it chases me. And in an interesting way, I'm in that carpentry workshop and I'm totally in love with the woman of my life, now my ex-wife, but was still really one of the dearest people to me in the world. Stayed together for 27 years. But she was like, look, if we're going to get married, you're going to have to show up with something more than a carpenter to my dad. Through sheer luck, I worked at IBM. Then I worked at Microsoft. Then I worked at Google. At the time where those companies were completely changing the world. Qualifications, I promise you, no, right? But somehow, there must have been 50,000 people around the world that could do this job better than me. At the height of my career, I became Chief Business Officer of Google X. So it wasn't just Google. It wasn't just X, which is like the best part of Google. It was Chief Business Officer of a place that was promising to change the world. Enormous, enormous privilege. That journey, on the other hand, was parallel to a very different journey. I was the happiest moment you will have ever seen until age 25. Age 25, I married my college sweetheart, who I loved dearly, who is a gorgeous and wonderful and spiritual and smart woman. She gives me this wonderful little child, Ali. Like any good father would do, I went to the delivery room, and, the minute this little crumbly thing shows up, they're really not pretty when they're born. Just let's be very clear about that. At least fathers don't see that, even if they tell you that they are, okay? And I look at that thing, and I promise you, my entire life flipped upside down. I was like, that's it. This thing is never going to need anything ever again. And so I put my head down, used my mathematics, and from age 25, where all I had was my carpentry shop, just started working at IBM. I think I was paid $29 a month. Age 29, I promise you, I was printing money on demand. My lovely, wonderful wife then would tell me, we need to change the car. And I would say, so what would you like, honey? And she would say, a Range Rover. And I'll say, that's going to have to be Wednesday, right? Because between Monday, I can't do it on Monday. I somehow understood mathematics to the point where I could literally print money on demand in a market before automatic trading and all of the stuff that you know today. And I was miserable. I had the most gorgeous woman in my life, 2 wonderful kids, a massive place to live, all of the cars that I was crazy about, fancy suits, everything you can think of, and I was clinically depressed. And the more life gave me, the more unhappy I became. Sounds familiar? You must know someone like that, who's so blessed in life and totally miserable. Until a defining moment, I'm unhappy, I'm grumpy all the time, it doesn't feel great, but you know what, Middle Eastern men, we don't cry, so who cares? Who cares about happiness? Let's just go with it, right? My daughter walks in on a Saturday, I am looking at something, crunching numbers or looking at an email, and she's literally jumping up and down. So Ali, my son, was born a tiny little Zen monk, okay? Constantly at peace. Aya, my daughter, was born as life itself. Enormous amounts of fun and energy and playfulness, 2 beautiful gifts. Aya's jumping up and down saying, Papa, we're going to do this and we're going to play that. And, can we stop and get that ice cream on the way? I looked at her so grumpy and I said, can we please be serious for a minute? Okay? She was 5. Where did that come from? And I could see with my own eyes as my daughter's heart broke. She literally wept, crying, ran out of the room. And for the first time, I suddenly realized I don't like this person anymore. I made a vow that I will not be that person.